You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt McGackie, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Kelly Schaefer of Atheist. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
Whoa, what day is it? What's going on? It is Friday. Oh, you know what? It is Friday. Hold on. There was already an episode released on That's right, you're getting a bonus this week. A bonus episode. What a great way to send this week off into wherever it's going. This is actually my first in-person interview since lockdown. Yes, I've released some other in-person interviews, but this is the first one I recorded, and wow, did it feel good. My dude Charles from Silktone was in Portland, hanging out with a bunch of people, including yours truly, and he actually came to the Shred Shed after we ate some delicious Vietnamese food together. And we decided, hey, let's record an episode, let's hang out, let's nerd out a little bit. So that's exactly what we did. Now, if you're a patron of the podcast, you heard this weeks ago because I gave it to them early. I don't give everything to them early, but I give them a lot of stuff. And I also give additional bonus episodes every week. And right now, while I'm going through GearFest stuff, they are getting a lot of stuff early. So if you would like to support the show, help keep this thing going, and get access to literally, I haven't added it up. I shouldn't say literally, but probably 200 hours of extra content or so. It's all back there. It's all at patreon.com/tonemob. The link to that will be in the show notes. Again, it's just $5 a month, and you will get access to all that, including any new bonus episodes that come out down the road, which happen every single week. So thank you very much to everyone who is doing that. It literally keeps the lights on. No joke, it pays the electric bill. So thank you to everyone who does that. And if you can, I would really, really appreciate that. And if you can't, as always, just spread the word. Please spread the word. Get more people checking this thing out. That's the way it keeps going. So without further ado, let's get into this extra episode with my dude, Charles Henry from Silktone Amps. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have Charles. He's back. What's going on, dude?
I'm back. Hey, this time in person.
This is the first in-person podcast I've done in probably 2.5 years. Yeah. I did one with Dave Hawes in Portland just like maybe the week or two before lockdown, and that was it.
Oh,
I haven't recorded in person since then.
Post-COVID.
No.
Wow.
This is the first one.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So why not?
I haven't seen anyone. You're the first person I've seen.
The first person ever?
Ever.
Wow. Wow. Sorry to disappoint. You really should have done better than that.
I flew all the way here for it. I didn't see anyone on the plane or anything.
Wow, you got an empty plane?
Yeah, blindfold.
That is amazing. Just blindfolded the whole thing. I took the mask and put it over my eyes.
Yeah, double mask, but not how most people do.
Right. Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're safe. And yeah, this is your first time in the Shred Shed. This is I hope it lives up to expectations, or maybe not. I don't know.
It's rad, dude. You got a lot of. I didn't realize how many vintage guitars you had. It's really cool.
Yeah, I can quit anytime I want. It's not an addiction or anything like that. It's fine.
Yeah, anytime.
It's fine.
We should probably cut this short somewhat so I can play that 55 before I leave.
Oh yeah, you probably should play the Junior before you go.
That'd be rad.
You should plug it into this. This guy Charles makes this really cool amp. It's called the Silktone Amp. I've got one here. You should plug into it.
There it is.
Yeah,
yeah.
There it is.
It would be cool to hear it in here. Hear it how you hear it.
I didn't really think about that, but yeah, it is a little bit different experience being in this location. This room has it's like not the liveliest room, but it does have a little bit of
It's woody though.
it's
Like it's cool. It has an echo to it that's a really subtle echo, not like a clap echo,
mhm.
but yeah, I'd call it. It's not a dead room.
No,
No.
no. And I do think things genuinely. I don't when I record like mic'd up amps and stuff, I don't do that much to them. Like
Yeah.
I'll play with the panning and things like that, but I don't really touch the EQ 99% of the time.
That's the way to do it. Yeah, you find what works in the room
Mhm.
where it sounds good, and if it sounds good in the room, it should sound good through a good mic, you know? So you shouldn't have to do much unless you're going for something totally different than your room sound, you know?
Yeah, totally. So that actually is a good thing to talk about. I can't remember if I brought this up on this podcast yet or not. And I should say, for everyone that's just tuning in for the first time and they're like, "Who is this guy? Why is he talking to him?" Well, this is like I think his third or fourth time he's been on. I think at least third
Yeah,
time
third.
he's been on the show. So go back and listen to his old episodes if you're not familiar with Silktone or Charles Henry. Like you can go back and educate yourself. We're just gonna be shooting the breeze here for this
Yeah,
one.
there's some long ones before. You can get the backstory on those.
Yeah, exactly. So go back there. We're just gonna be hanging out and nerding out for this episode. So, which you probably figured out by the this point in the episode. But so I don't know if you saw our mutual friend Chris Benson. He made an amp for Big KO, who's a guy that's been
Yeah,
on,
the rock box, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's cool.
Super cool amp. And KO was like, "Hey, do you want to make a video of it where he ships it to me?" And I was like, "Yeah, like have a cool amp live here for a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah, why not?" And so I brought it here and I called Chris and I was just like, "I think something's wrong with it." Because I played it at a shop, sounded great.
Uh,
And I brought it here and I was like, there's something, I don't know if a tube's like went bad in transit somehow. I mean, we didn't beat it up or anything, but like, I don't know, something's off. And I was like, let me sleep on it. I'll come back with fresh ears. Maybe I'm just being crazy.
right.
And so I came back the next day and I was like, it still something's not quite right here. And so I finally was like, Chris, I don't know. This is really bugging me. I'm sorry to do this, but you want to come check this out or I can bring it to you or whatever. And he comes out here and he's kind of worried. He's like, what did I do? You know, like, and he plays it for a little bit and he's like, then he looks around. He's like, dude, I'm like, what? He's like, look where the amp is. It was dead center of the room.
Middle.
Right in the middle
Yeah.
of the room. So right in the middle of the peak and right equidistant from the walls.
Yeah.
We took it and cocked it like 2.5 feet and just kind of pointed it at an angle, remiked everything, and it was like, oh, that's fine.
Changed everything. Yeah. Yeah, you kill all the weird room modes
Yeah.
and cancellation and stuff.
Yeah.
That's that it's crazy how big of a factor that plays and like nobody realizes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I knew about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I just didn't even I've never had an amp sound bad out here. I was like,
Yeah.
I set it in the center because I was like, oh, I'll film it like this and it'll look really cool.
Yeah.
No, it was as soon as we moved it and I like played just a few chords and then went back and like, wow, that sounds a lot better. Went back to and listened to the recording. It was like, okay, it's all fine now.
Yeah.
I barely did anything to that in post too. So
Whoa, crazy. Yeah.
yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. I've told people pull the amps off the wall because everyone I see has them, straight against the wall,
Mhm.
even like the open back ones, and a lot of those are meant to be pulled a little bit out if you have the room for it.
Mhm.
And it changes the sound drastically. It opens it up. It sounds huge now instead of a tight little box.
Mhm.
And yeah, placement, it can make crazy changes. That's why I was saying it'd be cool to hear that in here to see how it sounds. So I'm so used to hearing it in my studio, my shop,
Mhm.
and we've sound treated that, to sound neutral. So we did a pretty flat like 20 to 20 just so it's not altered by any like room effects and stuff.
Mhm.
So I go to different dealers and stuff and I'll watch them demo the amp. They're like, man, this is nice, real bright. And I'm like, yeah, because that's the last thing I'd call my amp.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it changes so much, not just amp placement in the physical space, but also mic placement, it's huge. It's a little less
For
of an
sure.
issue with these stealths that I use just because they're so big. The
Yeah.
capsule in them is just really large. So the surface area, it covers more of the speaker no matter
Mhm.
where you put it. But it still matters. Like you put them right in the center of the dust cap and it can work with certain things, but it's not usually what
Yeah.
you want to do.
Yeah, I usually go off center just a little bit, not the edge of the cone or anything, but just a little off center.
Mm-hmm.
And then room mics, I think for miking a cab, I do a mic or two on the cone,
Mm-hmm.
and then two stereo room mics,
Yeah.
and blend all that, and it makes a world of
Well, because
difference.
that's how you actually hear it. Like,
Yeah.
we always see close mic SM57s and stuff,
Right.
which is great for certain purposes, but that's like, nobody hears an amp like that. Nobody puts their
Yeah,
ear that close
you know,
to it, and like,
I mean, I just was, but but yeah, most people don't.
in general, yeah, it's not a thing that a lot of people do, and so you're used to hearing it down on the ground.
Yep.
You're feeling the vibrations from the floor, and like all that stuff plays a factor in too, because it's literally vibrating your bones,
Yeah.
and you hear that and you don't realize it.
Yeah. It all just blends. It's funny. We'll be sitting there testing pedals, and we'll go through a batch of 20 to 50 and test them. And I'll often just sit on the ground by the amp and hook pedals in to test.
Mhm.
And halfway through, I'm like, man, this amp sounds really good. Like, this is a good one. And then I stand up and I'm like, oh no, it sounds the same. It's all the right. I was tripping.
Yeah.
I just don't usually sit on the ground.
And we can psych ourselves out like that too. Sometimes your ears are just tired or fresh, whatever, and it's like,
Right.
oh, that sounds different to me. But it probably sometimes, if nothing's changed, it probably doesn't sound different. It's just you.
Yeah, dude, I've gotten big into like psychoacoustics and stuff with like there's so many armchair critics online just about like behind the whole hi-fi thing, because I'm super into records, my stereo, and I've built all my stereo stuff like we've talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
And people will often say that anyone who thinks a part matters or changes the sound, whatever, is completely insane and tripping. And other people think the opposite. They think, well, just because you can't hear it doesn't mean it's not there. You're nuts.
Mm-hmm.
But I've read studies where like people will think, like you just said, something sounds different on a given day just because of their mood. You're in a good mood, stuff's gonna sound good.
Mm-hmm.
You smoke some pot and you get high and you're stoked. You listen to it, it sounds better.
Right.
But nothing changed. You're
Nothing.
just it's just your mood. So everything that you're experiencing is just more pleasing, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's humans are weird.
Yeah.
We're speaking of smoking pot. The only thing that's real is our perceptions, man.
Right.
Like it's weird. People get into these internet arguments, and people are like, this is clearly better than that. And it's like, well, what's better? Like, maybe I'm trying to do like harsh noise stuff, and that's better for what I'm doing. What is
it's
better?
all subjective, right? Yeah.
But then again, there are times, there's a really good example that I have pointed a few people to when it comes to the strings. So like, the string joy stuff, we run into things all the time where people sorry, my computer's being weird. Whoop. There we go. I just get nervous when I can't monitor the way I want to. All right, we're good. Anyway, this guy was like, I wanted to try these strings, and and I didn't like them. And let me show you why. And so he did an A and B clip with our strings and his favorite strings. And we were like, oh, wow, there is a huge difference. Wow. Good grief. Like, these ones clearly sound like, at first I was like, wait, am I
with the wrong company?
Yeah. Well, I was like, what's going on? And then I realized, no, the clip that I've shared with people, every single one that I've like, especially in the company, of like, which one do you like better, A or B? And we'll show them, they'll be like, oh, A. I'm like, that's ours. Like, he did a really good, cool, like a good demo, good quality, good recording. And he liked what I considered a way worse sound. And everyone that I've shown it to so far has been like, that sounds way worse. But that guy liked it better.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, we're just never going to be able to please him because we don't agree on what sounds good.
Right. Exactly. It's like people that like Thrice,
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone.
Well, there's people who like them and there's people who are wrong. That's just how it is. But yeah, it was just, I'm not even faulting the guy. I'm like, he experienced it differently than a lot of other people do. So to him, it sounded bad. And that's what he went on record to say.
That's our mutual friend Nick was
hi Nick.
Hey Nick. We were talking about he was building pedals and we were in the shop and everything. And me and my other guy, Ryan,
Mm-hmm.
we threw on some jazz. We threw on some, I think it's Dave Brubeck or something. And Nick was just like, this is doing something for you guys. Like, you guys enjoy this? We were like, what do you mean? Yeah, this is great, dude. Like, this is amazing. Like some of the best jazz out there. And he's just not a jazz guy. He's like, I've never been into it. Like, I've never tried, but I've never really been able to. So, of course, we showed him a few things and we were trying to show him. I've been really into this George Benson album lately. He covers Abbey Road.
Mm-hmm.
And turns out Nick's not much of a Beatles fan either. So we were like, damn it, what do we show you? But yeah, one person's jazz is another person's thrice, and it just works out. But yeah, it's funny how one person can like a terrible sound and one person can like like the strings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was weird. It's like the other ones were really tinny and like I was like, wait, did he mix? No.
Yeah.
Like I literally thought he got mixed up, and we watched it a couple. Like, no, he likes that sound.
He liked that. Yeah, that's weird. I can't see anyone not liking string joys. Not to toot horns or anything, but those things are awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a yeah, some people don't. And I mean, honestly, most of the feedback we get, if it's not positive, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's always haters, like, but if it's not positive, it's just like, oh, they're fine.
Yeah.
Like there's some people that don't love them, and that's fine. That's just how it's going to be with anything, right?
Like classical players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're not nylon.
They're not made of nylon, which we'll get to one day.
Yeah.
Well, that's not high on the list, but we have plans because it's actually, believe it or not, we took a survey of our current customers, and the number one thing people wanted was bass flat wounds, which was not surprising at all.
Right.
So we're going to do that. The number 2 on that particular survey was classical. And I was like, I don't know a single person in my life that plays classical guitar.
Yeah.
Probably somebody listening to this right now. Like,
right.
I do.
I've told you so many times.
But like, I don't know any classical players. But clearly there are a lot of them. It just, they don't seem to run in the same circles at
I
all.
see a few at like the guitar stores every now and then, and they blow minds every time. Yeah. But I have played a classical guitar, but I'm not a classical guitar player by any means. I think they sound really cool, like for blues.
I'm like, why? It sounds great, but can you put some fuzz on it? Like,
yeah.
Like, we really could use some more sustain here.
Yeah.
Come on, get it together, guys. But yeah. Speaking of fuzz, last time you came on, you didn't have a fuzz, and now you do have a fuzz. So we should probably talk about it a little bit. Tell us about it.
You didn't have one either last time I came on, and now you kind of do. So,
oh, I know, I
fuzz,
did. I've
fuzz
had lots
party.
of fuzzes.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
There's a Tone Mob fuzz. Have you not seen that one?
No, I've only seen the pizza fuzz.
Oh man, I've got lots of fuzzes.
Oh,
we'll
no
talk
shit.
about it later. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
All right. Well, the Silktone fuzz. I keep looking away from the mic. It's cool, man. It's it was born from an idea. We can edit this, right? This isn't live. I totally just brain farted.
No, everyone's gonna hear it.
Nick, edit this.
I guess it is worth noting the Nick we were referring to works for Charles, and he also edits this podcast. So thank you, Nick. We love you.
Yeah, we love you, Nick. Thanks. Yeah. So the Silktone fuzz is based on a early fuzz face or tone bender like 1.5 circuit, just that topology. And of course, I've tweaked it to my liking. And the unique thing about it is the bias monitor that we patented. I'm calling it the active bias monitor. So it's a little display on the fuzz, and it shows your active bias at all times.
Right.
So I know but for any listeners out there that don't, it's a germanium fuzz, just like the originals. And the problem with germanium fuzz is temperature, of course. So if I biased it up in my shop to the ideal 4.5 volts, it'd be, let's say in 70-degree weather, you take it to a 90-degree show or something like that, and now it sounds like crap, or it sounds different than you want it to. If you're into that thing, it could sound amazing. But with the bias monitor, you can see, and like you take it into a 20-degree hotter room and it'll show you now it's at 6.5 volts, and you can easily just dial it right back down to 4.5 where it
Mhm.
needs to be. Or if you wanted like a gated thing at like 8 volts, you could dial it to the 8. And then if you, like, for instance, if you had it set there and went into a way colder room, it would come way down. So you could put it right back up.
Mhm.
So it's just a really intuitive and really quick way to adjust for temperature, or to just find your favorite bias setting to get the different gated or vintage or like sweet spot tones you could get. And other than that, it's just voiced really well. It's got an input buffer, so you could throw it anywhere. But the journey making the fuzz was the cool part. Like, I've had this idea for years and I wanted to do it, but I didn't really have I didn't know enough people in the different industries, like getting to know how to do PCBs, because I didn't want to
Mhm.
hand wire like a more complex fuzz like this, because I wanted it to be affordable still. And with the meter showing, it's really hard to drill a square hole. So like finding the right people and being introduced to like F5 Metalworks and stuff like that that could do my enclosures for me, it just opened up so many doors. And I was like, holy crap, like this is gonna work.
Mhm.
So I got it out at the right time, and it's been cool. It's been super fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the bias monitor is an interesting, like, it's another solution to that problem that offers, like, maybe you don't like it at 4.5.
Right.
I don't know who wouldn't.
It sounds
It
pretty
sounds
sweet.
great at
It
four and
sounds
a
pretty
half.
sweet
But
at four
like
and a
maybe
half.
you really want it more spitty or bitey or that
Yeah.
kind of weird sticky thing when it's way over. Uh, it's sometimes that's needed or wanted, and like especially with like bass and synths and different
Yeah.
things that you could throw at it, you might not want it set exactly where a guitar might want to be.
Right.
And so like if like I like it at 8, now you can set it to 8, and because you wouldn't necessarily know that just by looking at where the knob is.
Right.
So that fuzz that I was referencing, the Tone Mob 001 fuzz, is also got its roots in that circuitry as well.
Yeah.
It sounds surprisingly like quite a bit different,
Mhm.
which is kind of interesting because I know where all these are coming from. Like, wow, if you
Right.
didn't know, you might think these were different, like
Huh.
completely different circuits.
Yeah. Yeah.
It also has a external bias,
Oh, cool.
but there's no way to know other than the knob placement, like
Exactly.
where
And
what you're actually
is it
you're just using your ear.
germanium or
It
is it
is
silicone?
germanium.
Okay. See, and
Yeah.
then the thing with that too is that's what bugged me, because yeah, it's not like I invented the bias knob. Like those
Yeah.
have been around, but when I've used them before, like I'll set it where I like it. But again, you go to a colder or hotter
Mhm.
room, and now that setting isn't that setting anymore.
Right.
Like, so then you have to find the sound. You can't just look at where the knob is placed, That's where the idea for the meter came in.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The meter is a great idea. I never would have thought of that, but I've experienced that same thing where I was going with that. Oh, I should clarify for anybody who just heard about that fuzz for the first time. Yes, I was talking about the germanium version. That was the last version, which was gold and sparkly and beautiful. And if you see those around, that's the germanium. There's a little GE on it if you look close. All of the other ones are silicon. So we're talking about the germanium.
Yeah, those
I don't
don't
want
have-
anybody to get confused. I'm like, wait a minute, I have the silver RoboCop version. I thought it was silicon. It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
We're only talking about germanium. But yes, I noticed that. The germanium version of that is my favorite. But the bias isn't necessarily the bias.
Right.
Like as far as what you're going for. Now, granted, I'm usually playing out here, so it's fairly consistent,
Mhm.
but I've definitely noticed it change. And if you had a meter, like yours does,
Right.
you would know you could turn it to where then you'd go to by the number, not where the knob is.
Exactly. That way you can just see it and dial it in rather
Mhm.
than listening for the sound.
Mhm.
If you're going around to different shows and it's all different temperatures, you don't have to find the sound every time. You can just go, oh, there's my 6.5 that I like,
Mhm.
which is a great one also. 6.5, nice and fat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
6.5 is good.
Yeah.
I like 6.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you find it like I've seen people try to go both ways. It seems like amp people or amp builders generally have an easier time making pedals. That's not making them per se, but selling them. Like people are more open to the idea of a pedal from an amp company. Now I've also seen pedal companies try to make amps, and while they may be amazing amplifiers, people just aren't really into that for some reason.
Yeah.
Is that because I'm not sure why that is. Do you think it's because like an amp is viewed as like because it's more expensive of course they can make something cheaper because they make expensive things, but that doesn't necessarily true. They're two totally different things,
Right.
so
Yeah.
what,
It's
what are your thoughts there?
I mean, I'm still trying to figure it out. I haven't been a pedal company very long. It's been amps for a little while longer than that. But from my understanding, it's a different customer base, um, in a big way where it. I mean, already we've sold way more fuzzes than we have amps. Like
Oh,
it's
sure.
it's easier to sell pedals.
Yeah.
So um, when you've built a customer base or just a following on your amplifiers and people that like your amps and will spend that kind of money, I guess, um, it's easy for them to make the smaller purchase. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Whereas if you've attracted a lot of pedal people buy new pedals all the time. They get addicted, and some amp people too do too, I guess. But most people are, most people that are buying pedals all the time, yeah, they're not going to go from shelling out $200 or so for a pedal to all of a sudden 3,000 for an amp as easy as someone who's signed on as an amp customer would grab the less
Yeah.
expensive pedal, I think.
Yeah.
But other than that, as far as like the cred you get for like like trusting an amp company with a pedal rather than a pedal company with an amp, I'm not sure. I haven't really seen that. I haven't been on the other side of it, so
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't ever. I can't think of an example. This is not entirely true, but I can't think of an example where the pedal came first and then the amp. They've done it. And even my friend Wampler, he's done it. But the Bravado, while it's a fantastic amp, is not the main thing that sells for him.
Right.
Like, not even close.
Yeah.
And he made it as a pedal platform specific amp. You would think like, oh, well, that would be.
Yeah.
This guy would know, but I mean, I know it's not his biggest seller. He sells some,
Yeah.
but it's not his bread and butter by any stretch of the
Yeah.
imagination.
The only one I can think of off the top of my head where the pedals came first is maybe like JHS, but they didn't really make their amps.
No,
So
and that was very publicly like with Milkman.
yeah,
So,
exactly. That was a
yeah.
Milkman thing. So I don't know if they get the
I'm
credit for
trying to
that one.
think of anybody else that's done it in recent memory, or even EQD. They had a one knob, really cool looking. I never played it, but a really awesome looking amp for a very short time.
Right.
And I don't think it went anywhere.
Hmm.
Even though people seem genuinely more excited about that one. I don't know if maybe there was something else to that story that I'm not hip to, but like
Yeah.
I remember when that came out, I was like, whoa, that looks amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, who knows? Maybe someday.
The other thing too is what I've noticed, and I think I've talked to a couple of people about, is most amp companies that make pedals, myself included, is mostly fuzzes and boosts, maybe a delay.
Mhm.
Like it's nothing too like crazy complex like all these other like major pedal companies are doing nowadays.
Right, like that Maris one we were just looking
right,
at.
it's
Yeah.
nothing like that. You don't have a you know you don't have a PlayStation 5 built into the built into the display.
Yeah, yeah. It's an interesting world we live in because like sometimes, Scott and I used to talk to this guy. I can't remember what his roots were exactly, but he had made a bunch of guitar based brands over the years. Um, and his thing was always make a new brand when you have a new product. And I think that's true to a degree, but like I think that can get kind of messy at some points. I think there are like for instance, we talk about this all the time with Stringjoy. We're like, if we can't really do Stringjoy, you know, guitar amps, that wouldn't really make any sense.
Right.
If we were gonna get into amps, which we're not, but if we were, like, it would have to be a different brand,
Right.
like Silktone. You know. No, but we could do like we do straps, for instance. That makes sense. Like
Yeah.
that fits in the same kind of accessories category. Even there for a while, we were actually talking about making guitars, but obviously not under our brand name. And we were going to work with another local luthier. That ended up getting shelved for the time being, but we were like, it can't be Stringjoy guitars. It
Right.
just seems weird. Like that doesn't make any sense. But some accessories can live together, and it's weird because at the end of the day, oftentimes they come from the same place.
Now, do you think that's because of what you make or because of the name?
Probably a little of both.
Yeah.
But then again, that could be completely just like self-imposed made up thing.
Mm.
It's probably mostly because of the name in that case. Because like Ernie Ball does well. with Music Man. Those
Right.
are very well respected, really nice instruments, and I don't think it suffers by being associated with Ernie Ball.
Yeah.
So who knows? I guess there's exceptions to every rule. It's just how do you want to think about it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's, yeah, I could see in the right circumstance being able to cross over like that and get into different stuff where it's like, because I thought about that with the pedals too, where it's like, okay, I have Silktone amps. The pedals are, it feels like it's still in the same field where of course it'll still just be Silktone. I trying to think of a product that I wouldn't do under the name Silktone. I don't know.
Would you I know this isn't your wheelhouse, but would you do a guitar under that brand?
Like
I feel like it almost works.
Yeah, if I were to do a guitar, I've thought about that. If I were to do a guitar and partner up with a luthier, or someday get bored and learn how to do it myself,
Yeah,
I'd
I'm
probably,
sure you'll have plenty of time for that.
it'd probably, yeah, it'd probably work under that name. I think
so.
I think it would work. Yeah. Dude, I could do coffee beans under that name. It kind of works.
It's a pretty good name. It's a pretty good, I'm like, I trust that. Yeah. Silktone soap. I mean, it would work. I think
if you go to silktone.com, because my website is silktone.org.
Yeah.
Silktone.com is like a Chinese makeup company.
Okay.
So
and that actually, okay, that makes sense. I get it.
Right.
Yeah. You got silky skin tone.
Yeah. Yeah. We should do a collaboration.
Yeah, dude. That's funny. Yeah, it's wild how when you really start to think about, going down the brand name rabbit hole and branding rabbit hole.
It's hard.
It's
come
really
up with
hard.
names.
It's really hard. It's fun. It's a fun creative exploration, but without fail, the first 20 names or anything that you'll come up with will be taken.
Oh yeah.
If they're good. If you're like, this is a great name. I'm so stoked to use this. Somebody's already got it.
Yeah.
And especially if you're talking about our space, which is a musical instruments and accessories space. Technically, anything that has ever been used to call for a musical instrument or accessory, even if you got the trademark on it, if it was used before, technically, you could lose it.
Yeah, they have the rights.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if you would lose it if the trademark's not active for them anymore, so they can't enforce it. You just can't prevent them from using it also.
Exactly.
Right. So, but yeah, you lose it in most cases.
Well, there was we were racking our brains for it. We got several Stringjoy releases coming this year, hopefully, as long as everything goes well. And we come up with some names we really liked, and one of them I was like, one of my friends has that name. It's a completely different product.
Yeah.
It's still in the musical instrument space though, and so I was like, all right, just let me call him, see what. I was like, hey, can we use this for this? And he's like, yeah, I don't care. I was like, can you text me that? And he's like, sure, you can use the name, whatever. But it was a retired product that he doesn't make anymore, but technically he owns the name to it. And so I had to, I know that's not like it's not like getting lawyers involved, which I wouldn't want to do in the first place, but
yeah,
I had to get his permission before we could do it.
Yeah, most people are cool. And if you're cool about asking, most people go, oh, yeah, right on.
Yeah. As long as it doesn't, you don't want it to be confusing. Like if another string company was like, can we call ours the Foxwood? Like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, that's too.
But if it's
too close,
completely, I don't want to say like that pedals and strings or guitars and pedals are like completely different. But as long as it's, I think if somebody come out with a guitar called the Governor, I don't think anyone would get that confused with the Marshall pedal.
Yeah.
Not really.
Isn't there a speaker called that too?
I think so.
There's like an eminent speaker or something called the Governor. Yeah. And those kind of names get thrown around. Well, even with ideas like the fuzz, for instance, my Silktone fuzz. When I the idea for the meter hit me because I was testing my circuit. And I would come out every morning because it took more than a day. And
no way.
So every morning I'd come out and I'd come out to a cold garage because, in the afternoon, it'd be up to like 85, 90 degrees because I don't have AC out there, or I didn't when I was designing it. And I'd come out the next morning and it'd be like 60. And I'd go, God, sometimes I'd go, whoa, this sounds cool. And sometimes I'd go, what the hell happened to this thing? And of course I go, oh, damn it, the bias. Because as much as I know better, I would often forget.
Yeah.
and I'd have to bias it back up. And that's when it hit me like, holy shit, it'd be super cool if everyone could do this. If everyone could just see what voltage it's at, like all of us techs do, and they could put it where they like it. Because I was designing the thing, so I was trying to find the bias that I liked for the pedal. So I was voicing it, and when I got the idea to do that, I was, of course, like, somebody's already had to have done that. The fuzz face has been out for almost 60 years. There's no way this hasn't been done before.
Right.
And I couldn't find anything online. I called a patent attorney. They did a search. They couldn't find anything. I called several friends in the industry that know pedals more than I do. And I was like, has this been done? And they're like, holy shit, no. So I did it. I moved forward with it. But yeah, like you said, most of the good ideas people have, it's like, yeah, for sure, it's been done. There's so much time and stuff out there now.
But not always. And sometimes sometimes it comes down to like business operation things.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like Scott and I, because we'll talk for hours and hours about the tiniest minutia that people would think we're absolutely insane. But
that's my favorite part of the business stuff. Yeah.
And so like what shade of blue should we have that checkout button? Because it really does take that level of detail sometimes. Not all the time. Sometimes we definitely go too far. But where was I going with that? Oh, there are times where we've like looked at the string market and what people have done, to make that work for them in different ways. And sometimes we've come up with ideas that we have never seen done before. We're like, why is nobody ever focused on this particular sector?
Right.
Like this sector, I don't want to give too much away, but like there's a certain sector that should be very obvious of the string market that does a tremendous volume of strings that has not really ever been served all that well. When you look at all the offerings from literally everyone else. And it's like, well, they probably use like 10% of the overall strings that are actually produced. Why is nobody serving them in an effective way? And so it's kind of an interesting thing we stumbled across the other day, and we were like, somebody surely has come up with this idea already.
Yeah.
I don't think they have.
Yeah.
Or they tried it and it didn't work, and we're about to stumble into some big mess.
That's cool though.
But I don't think so. I think it's pretty logical. Sometimes things haven't been done simply because they haven't been done.
Right.
And there's no it doesn't take a genius. It's just like somebody to try it.
Yeah. And I mean, going against what I just said about how there's been so much time and so much stuff out there, when you think a bit about it in the big picture, like this stuff's all fairly new, like,
yeah, that's true.
Less than 100 years. Are you kidding?
Even the electric guitar in general.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. It's all relatively new. But what you were saying before about the little tiny stuff that you don't think matters, I think that stuff matters a lot. Like where maybe no one will ever notice the shade of the checkout button and go, man, I like what they did with this checkout button.
Right.
It's a sum of all parts thing, so it all comes together into an experience. And I've had a lot of friends be critiqued over the level of detail they put into things, even at like a local coffee shop or something. Like, dude, nobody cares what way you align the chairs or whatever, but it's this booming, bustling coffee shop. So obviously people do,
maybe without realizing it.
Without realizing it. Exactly. It's because it's not the level of attention you put into one detail. It's the fact that you did that with everything and it comes together, and it's this big curated website or coffee shop or amplifier or pedal or guitar. And now you have this amazing thing where not one individual little thing would make the difference probably, but just the fact that you did that with everything, now you have something special.
I think a really good example of this in like real-time action is Disney.
Oh.
Like if you look at 90% of the movies they've put out, even just the movies alone, like the animated movies.
Right.
Look at an animated movie from Disney versus another studio at the same time frame. The difference is stark.
Oh, it's insane.
And it took 1 million hours of little tiny details to make it that drastically different. And then that goes through, I mean, criticize the company all you want, but there's no denying that they've made like essentially they are like one of the original content companies. They made some of the best content on the planet.
Right. And they wrote Star Wars.
And they wrote Yeah, that's how I understand
Isn't that
it,
how it
right?
works?
Yeah, that's how I understand it. But they, and even that, well, actually, that's a really good, why I was thinking of it was my friend just went to Florida and went and checked out the whole Star Wars thing. And he was like, the level of detail in every square inch of that place
Yeah.
would blow your mind. He's like, if you ever, I'm like, I'm not that interested in going to Disney World, but I know I'm going to be there at some point. I got kids.
Have you been to the Disneyland one?
I have not been to, I've been there, but not since that.
Not
was
to
in.
the Star Wars land
Yeah.
thing? Dude, it's insane.
That's so you can speak to it. So it's like, he's like, everything is branded basically.
We were sitting in line for like, I don't know, it was like an hour and a half. I won't wait in a crazy 5-hour line,
Mhm.
but we were in line for like an hour and a half to get on the Millennium Falcon ride, which was awesome. You get to pilot the Millennium Falcon. But I remember sitting there and just like looking up at the set and being like, dude, people had to do this.
Mhm.
Like, look at this crazy stuff going on. Like, this used to be nothing. And now it is this grand, this whole land got put together. Like, just the level of thought and detail and work to go into it, like the designers and then even the builders just putting that meticulous level of detail into it.
Mhm.
It's crazy. And I feel like I appreciate that more now after like designing my own products. And an amplifier is not a giant, fucking 5 square mile like adventure park, but
Yeah,
you notice that kind of stuff. So
you do.
yeah, it's
You
crazy.
do. And you're right. It's not the fact that they, hit an imperial symbol on that one rock. It's that they did it on all of the rocks.
Yeah.
Like everywhere. And
Yeah.
that's just one example. They knew that the details do matter, even if people don't notice them.
Yeah.
Like like you said, it's the sum of all the parts rather
Mhm.
than the parts themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and that's I think true with just about any endeavor you want to pursue. I mean, music. Like
Mhm.
sometimes it's cool just to throw down an acoustic guitar real quick and just like scratch track and be like, all right, it's good. Let's roll with
Yeah.
it. Sometimes that's fine, but sometimes you want to play with the panning on every single individual track and
Right.
automate it up and down and backwards and everything else. Like sometimes diving in, even though when listening you may not understand fully what's going on, but that
Mhm.
movement that it creates makes a different experience.
Yeah. If you care about it and put the thought and effort into it, that's what people will appreciate, whether it's a subconscious thing or not, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. The devil is in the details, as
Yeah.
they say.
Yeah.
Well, man, we haven't been going for too long, but I do have to transport you to your Airbnb here shortly.
Oh, yeah.
So, is there anything you want to leave the people with on this little bonus episode we just decided to do last minute? Plus, you got to play the junior still. So.
Yeah, I do have to play that junior still. I did want to ask, what was your favorite when you played the fuzz? Because you played the Silktone fuzz. What was your favorite setting, and what was your favorite guitar you played through it?
Well, the favorite guitar I played through it was my Grez Mendocino, because we had our little doom band session there for a couple minutes, and
we should have recorded that.
We should have
recorded
recorded that. It sounded good.
Yeah, I was on drums while Blake played the fuzz through the Vincent and everything, and man, it was rad.
It sounded awesome.
It was super fun.
I think I was set around 8 there.
Oh, nice.
I think so.
Yeah.
8 in the raw setting. Fuzz all the way up, clean all the way down.
Yeah.
Which is like my life.
It lets it lets the bass through on that raw silk mode, or the raw mode. Sorry, it's called on the pedal. But yeah, that Mendocino baritone, I used my own to make sure that all worked properly. So
well, I was
so
playing
was
a
cool.
standard tune guitar, my Roni Oceana, which is one of my favorite guitars, but I said, wait a minute, I have to try something else before we start podcasting.
Yeah.
So I grabbed the baritone because I love that guitar. I play it pretty much every day. And that's one of my benchmarks for dirt pedals now, is like, how does it play with baritone? And if it doesn't play well with baritone, it's not ever going to be my favorite dirt pedal, By the same token, I do have a fuzz by a company I won't talk about. Not because I don't want it to sound like I'm trashing them. I'm not trashing them. It sounds amazing on baritone and low tunings and bass. And that's kind of how it was designed. But it sounds honestly kind of like trash on standard tuning, And I know that you don't have to do it that way.
Yeah.
I know it can work for both.
Yeah, I mean, I made sure the baritone worked, but my focus was a standard tuned guitar
Yeah.
for sure. So
Yep.
you get those cool sounds out of it.
Oh yeah, it ripped. I
Yeah.
love that. So yeah, everybody make sure you check out Charles's stuff. If this is the first time you've heard him, definitely go back to the previous episodes. First one, we just kind of got to know him a little bit. Second one, we went heavy and dark and deep. And
That was fun.
That was
the 2-parter. So this is the 4th episode, but it's the 3rd time we've done it.
That's
right.
how. That's why I'm thinking 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was actually it was like a 2.5 hour episode. I put it out in 2 parts. So go back and check those out. They are back to back. That way you can get to know Charles a little better. And I hope you enjoyed this nerd session.
Yeah, and check out the amps too.
Definitely check out the amps. Definitely. Well, dude, thank you so much for hanging out. This was awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's awesome to see the Shred Shed not through Instagram for once. So it's awesome. I love what you've done here.
Yeah, we've been needing to do this for a long time. So
yeah,
we got some more guitars to play. So talk to you later, everybody.
See ya.
For Charles, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. There you have it, folks. Make sure you go check out all of Charles's stuff, his amps, his pedals, the fuzz. Check it all out at silktone.org. Link to that is in the show notes. And if you want to know more about Charles, and trust me, you do, check out his previous episodes. In the first one, we dive into a more standard Tone Mob episode, and then he came on a few other times. Actually, it was one conversation split into 2 parts because it was kind of long. They're released back to back, though. Go check out that episode because he's really went through some stuff. And it was really inspiring to hear a story of somebody coming out of a bunch of difficult times. That's always a good thing to hear. And he is definitely somebody who has done that. So go check out his older episodes if you have not already. And make sure you check out the Silktone Amps. And again, if you like this kind of stuff, if you want more of it, patreon.com is the place to get more of that. And for $5 a month, you can keep this thing going and get bonus content for your ears. So thank you very much to everyone who tunes in every week. Seriously, it means so much. Please share this with somebody. Share this podcast with a friend. It may take some effort. My friend Eddie, I think I said this recently, literally had to sit there with me and have me look up clips for what is now one of my favorite podcasts. So sometimes that's what it takes if you really want to get somebody into a show. And I know you don't want to be that annoying person, but it would help me out a lot. I'd appreciate it. So thank you very much. Again, I appreciate you. And I'll talk to you very, very soon. See you on the internet. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.